Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Agnes Servacio, the co-vice chair of the MAP Environment Committee. I will be your MC for today's general membership meeting of the Management Association of the Philippines. On behalf of the MAP Board of Governors, I would like to call this MAP general membership meeting to order. May I request everybody to please rise for the invocation and please remain standing after the invocation for the Philippine National Anthem. Let us bow our heads in prayer. We gather here today to humbly offer this prayer for the healing and preservation of our environment with your guidance and compassion. For the air we breathe, help us develop sustainable practices that sustain the purity of our atmosphere. For the water, help us conserve this precious resource and ensure its accessibility to all. For the land, help us safeguard the biodiversity of our forests and ecosystems. For your creatures, help us become better stewards. For the communities, help us generate a future where no one is left behind and where justice and equity prevail. For ourselves, help us cultivate a deep concern for nature, inspiring others through our example and dedication. Lord Almighty, hear our prayers for the healing and preservation of our environment. Guide us towards a culture of respect for all your creations. We ask this in the name of Jesus, your Son. Amen. We may all take our seats. Before we start the program, may I acknowledge our partners for this general membership meeting. Our diamond sponsors, thank you, BDB Law. Gold sponsor, Forecasting and Planning Technologies Incorporated. Thank you as well to our silver sponsors, Divina Law, PwC Philippines, San Miguel Corporation, SGV and Company, SMIC, and BDO. And of course, special thanks to Security Bank for today's partner, for being our partner for today's GMM. Just a reminder, in case you haven't dropped your entries, they are raffling actually SPA GCs at the end of today's GMM. Thank you to all our sponsors, and a round of applause, please. For the welcome remarks and President's report, may I call on the President of the Management Association of the Philippines and the founding partner and CEO of the Du Baladlad and Associates, or BDB Law. Please welcome Attorney Dick Du Baladad.
Good morning. First of all, I would like to thank the Communications Committee, chaired by Ms. Susan Dimacali and her next-gen Vice Chair, Karen. Where's Karen? Karen Remo and her team, Harold De La Rosa and Mark Nituman, for that national anthem video capturing our campaign against malnutrition and child stunting. In keeping with the rousing anthem, music, and visuals, they interspersed upbeat photos of children, the MAP leaders, the malnutrition partners, to symbolize what we want to achieve in this program. How about a round of applause for the communications team? Our guest speaker, DNR Secretary Maria Antonia YULO LOYZAGA, our distinguished guests from the government, the diplomatic community, the business community, the academe and media, fellow MAP members, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Board of Governors and the more than 1,100 members of the MAP, I would like to welcome you all to this MAP General Membership Meeting on the environment in celebration of the Environment Month of June. Let me thank our guest speaker for accommodating us, ma'am, to enlighten us on the national priorities on environment, natural resources, and climate change. Thank you, Secretary. At this point, let me take this opportunity to update you on the progress of our major programs. Of course, first and foremost is the MAP campaign against malnutrition and child stunting. On May 23, we had a meeting with various stakeholders to operationalize the MAP campaign against malnutrition and child stunting. And 48 MAP members and guests representing 41 organizations attended the said meeting. We are operationalizing the campaign through 3 teams organized around key areas that can most effectively carry out the important activities needed to address malnutrition and child stunting. And these are the 3 E's that we have presented to you so many times already, namely educate, encourage, and engage. So as a result of our May 23 meeting with various stakeholders, the 3 teams agreed to do the following. Can we have the slide for Team Educate? Most important on the list of the Team Educate is to focus on women of childbearing age and the family as the primary target population for the messaging plan and on the importance of the first 1,000 days of a child's life. We also have targeted to urge the national leaders to adopt the first 1,000 days of a child's life program as a top priority agenda of the country through the Office of the President. The next team, Team 2, is Team Encourage, which is the team that would be involved in developing policies and reforms, where they are requesting to declare malnutrition as a public health crisis and not just a simple hunger problem. They move for the shift emphasis of feeding programs from school feeding towards the first 1,000 days from conception. And that would include the lactating mothers and needy pregnants. They also propose specific legislative issuances on agriculture and food sufficiency, health and nutrition, education, social welfare, and budget. And the biggest team of all is Team Engage, where they now have to do the implementation. They would be the ones on the ground. And the first that they will do is to generate an inventory of ongoing activities of various stakeholders to promote complementation. And if you look at number 4, that's very important, secure funding from global organizations. Following the output of the Team Educate, we have proceeded on implementing the action plans. And as we identify below, first, we have written to the National Nutrition Council requesting MAP's representation as the private sector as one of the private sector representatives in the council. And on May 24, we met also with the various organizations that are already on the ground, including the PBSP, the Pilipinas Contra Gutom, PBED, Unilever, and among others. And based on this, we talk about, when we talk about engagement, because they are already heavily in the ground, we are talking about a big coalition on that. We also have met with another group, Senator Joey Lina's Children's First 1,000 Days Coalition, again for a collaboration meeting. There will be a group that will be going to Bacolod to see the Negrense Volunteers for Change Foundation in action. And these are the manufacturers of Mingo and nutritious instant complementary food. It runs this one, and VRC runs a nutrition program using Mingo for children of impoverished families. Then there will be a follow-up meeting of this group forming the coalition. And next week, we will be releasing one full-page public statement in 2 newspapers of general circulation about the MAP's campaign on malnutrition and child stunting. So as you can see, there is no let-up. The campaign against malnutrition and child stunting is a major advocacy project of MAP for the next 5 years and intended to be a multi-stakeholder synergy and collaboration. The magnitude of the problem is too wide and deep-rooted that it will require harmonizing all the efforts from both the public and private sectors so that everyone moves in the same direction effectively and efficiently, maximizing the resources allotted for each initiative being deployed for this advocacy. I would like to emphasize that MAP's advocacy campaign, which calls for multi-stakeholder synergy and collaboration, is not meant to take over or duplicate the many efforts that are already being done or had been done. Our objective is for complementarity. That is, to complement those efforts with the end goal of helping eradicate malnutrition and child stunting and contribute to the improvement of the overall nutritional status of Filipino children. Again, the next one is the Blueprint for Shared Prosperity, which is aligned with our campaign on malnutrition. This is, again, aiming to create a 5-year blueprint for shared prosperity that will contain the roadmap of commitments on how our ranks, our businesses, can help uplift the poor out of poverty as manifested in their dealings towards their employees, customers, suppliers, communities where they operate, the environment, and other stakeholders. The root cause of malnutrition is poverty. The culprit is poverty, and therefore we have to help on this regard. So on August 22, we will conduct the MAP Shared Prosperity Summit. The summit intends to bring together the decision makers in government, business leaders, the academe, and the NGOs and other interest groups to collaborate and collectively produce a blueprint for shared prosperity that we will push for our ranks and other business organizations to adopt. The World Bank, through the country director for the Philippines, Dr. Indiame Diop, has accepted to be MAP's main partner for the summit and for producing that blueprint. The World Bank has confirmed that they will provide the opening keynote speaker for the summit and to provide the technical assistance in providing the blueprint for shared prosperity. For the Investment Forum series, this is, by the way, a series to help map out the ecosystem, because we believe that foreign investors, when they come in here, the environment should be ready for that ecosystem, which could also be a tool for our MSMEs to grow by connecting them to the ecosystems of the foreign investors or any other investors that will come in the country. So we are done with the first series, and the second series would be on tourism. The second session would be the Tourism Forum, which is set on October 2023. Another flagship project is pushing for the National Branding Council. As reported last month, we have already had a meeting with Secretary Paul Soriano to discuss how MAP and the Office of the President can work together in pushing for a country brand for the Philippines. And during that meeting, we were requested to draft an executive order. We already have submitted that executive order, and we have also written and submitted our position paper to the Office of the President and some departments that are in the forefront of Philippine branding. We are committed to support this advocacy until it becomes a reality. Now, to support all these advocacies that we have, so we have revived the breakfast dialogue called BDB Law MAP Breakfast Dialogue. And this is a series of monthly closed-door huddle of government officials and MAP leaders and members to discuss burning issues of the day and explore areas for cooperation and be enlightened on game-changing policy directions. On June 20, we will have our first one, and that would be with Senator Win Gatchalian, the co-chair of the Second Congressional Commission on Education, or EDCOM2. The next breakfast is on June 26 on ARTA with Secretary Ernie Perez, and the third one would be with National Nutrition Council, Dr. Azucena M. Dayanghira. There are many others that are lined up for the year. And all of these should be used as support for our advocacies. Another important project, which we do annually, actually, is the MAP International CEO Conference. The theme is on a cohesion course, leading in the age of unlimited possibilities. Confirmed speakers, the big ones, big names, include the following: His Excellency Dr. Kao Kim Horn, the Secretary General of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, as the opening keynote speaker. We also have a confirmed speaker, Mr. Frederick Newman, Chief Asia Economist and Co-Head of Global Research Asia of HSBC. We will also have a speaker from Price Waterhouse, who is the knowledge partner of our CEO conference. On June 15 and 22, MAP Strategic HR Summit on Transformational Pathways for Enterprise Success will be done. And this HR Summit will hopefully enlighten all of us on elevating the HR functions to truly contribute to business value and explore courses of action on how transformative HR strategies could differentiate your company from the rest. So tomorrow is the first session. If you want to join, you can approach Segi, Segi's Mondo. On July 27 to 28, we have the AIM Management Educators Workshop, and this is in line with the growth and people development pillar of our Bridge advocacy. So let me take this opportunity to inform you that this will happen on July 27 to 28 at the ASEAN Institute, with the ASEAN Institute of Management, Asian Institute of Management, which we will be holding in Iloilo City. And that will be hosted by West Visayas State University. And then we have the SCALE program. The SCALE program will have its fire chat with the 15 startup participants on July 3. The fireside chat will feature top executives of leading private equity firms and venture capital funds. They will share insights on what they typically look for in a startup, the lessons that can be learned from failed startups, the challenges and the opportunities facing entrepreneurship in the region, as well as their experiences in scaling businesses. Then we have this one is new. So we have the creation, the intended, or a proposal to create or initiate the creation of an ASEAN Management Association. Ambassador Tul is with us today of Thailand. He's actually one of those who's pushing for this forming of this ASEAN Management Association, starting with the Management Organization of Thailand. And we already have meeting with them, and they are also open to forming this regional association of management organizations. Let me just show you the envisioned purpose of this AMA, or ASEAN Management Association. First is to provide a platform for sharing of best management practices in the region, to develop and make available a pool of management experts and other resources that can be tapped when needed, provide networking and business opportunities for members of the management associations who will form part of the AMA, enable professional managers to assist in pushing for sustainable and inclusive business growth in the region, and provide inputs to the ASEAN BAC in pushing for ASEAN economic integration and ASEAN centrality. Thank you, Ambassador Tul, for assisting us on that. Okay. Then we have the Project Compass. So if you recall, we conducted a survey from March 13 to April 17 to do a quick dipstick research on the thoughts and perceptions of MAP members on MAP. More than 21% of the MAP membership responded to the survey. And this is a project of the Communications Committee, chaired by Susan Dimacali, with the help of MAP member Jermaine Reyes, the president of Synergy Research and Strategic Consultancy, who fielded her team, Claire and Joanna, to work on the data tables and analysis, pro bono. The results of the MAP Project Compass survey revealed, in gist, that the mission of MAP is still relevant and its image is very positive. However, again, in gist, MAP members are asking for more opportunities for deeper engagement and inclusivity in MAP activities. So in view of this, our Communications Committee developed the intermission AVP that was shown earlier. That AVP contains the theme for the year and the activities lined up in support of this theme for everybody's awareness. So we have the Next Gen Vice Chairs, the Next Gen Conferences and Transformational Leadership Series, the Scale Tech Startups, the Shared Prosperity Summit, the Breakfast Dialogues, the Data MAP, among others. In addition, the planned creation of an ASEAN Management Associations, spearheaded by MAP, would widen the members' network and the exchanges for best practices not only in the country, but regionally. All of these projects address the concerns raised for clamor for more engagement. So the challenge now is on you to get yourselves involved. Let me just mention that all of this, the survey, the AVP, the national anthem, were provided pro bono by the companies of Susan Di Macali, Karen Remo, and Jermaine Reyes. Thank you again to them. Now, again, aligned with membership, we also have this earlier at the board meeting approved some changes in the membership nomination process to improve the quality of members and make sure that we get the right numbers. The new guidelines will follow a stricter vetting. There will be two-level vetting. One is a vetting on the applicant himself, and the second on the institution where he or she is connected with. Likewise, vetting will not be limited to financial information provided by the applicant, but the membership committee shall be required to use third-party information that can be gathered from the internet, the social media, the industry or professional organizations, and business chambers. In short, we are now adopting a new positioning. We will not chase potential applicants, except for certain cases, but we will keep on working on the mission of MAP for management excellence, keep on improving our relevance to the society, and keep on improving the engagement of members so that the right applicants will come to us because we are the MAP. Then I think it's now time also to search for the yearly MAP Management Person of the Year. So may I encourage everyone to submit your nominations for the MAP Management Person of the Year 2023, and the deadline is August 18, 2023. We have to help the search committee chaired by Secretary Babe Singson and the judging committee chaired by Lilia de Lima to produce the 47th recipient of the MAP Management Person of the Year Award. Also, we are now opening nominations for MAP governors for 2024 to 2025. When you receive a letter from Chair Malu Cristobal, please respond not later than July 14 if you are interested to be nominated for the MAP governorship. During the nomination period, the first 10 members who will receive the highest number of nominations and who will accept their nominations will be considered as candidates for MAP governors. And from among the 10 candidates, 4 governors will be elected to serve on the MAP board for 2 years, 2024 and 2025. The elected MAP governors will serve concurrently as trustees of the MAP Research and Development Foundation. By the way, our project on malnutrition is now under the MAP Research and Development Foundation. It will have its own funding, and that is for purposes of sustainability and continuity. Lastly, may we show these remaining activities for the year. It's now June, so we're half done with the year. Thank you, Lord. So please join us in these activities. That completes my report. Please monitor your Viber, your email inboxes, the website, and those. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney Dick. So much has been accomplished under your leadership. As you said, it's only been 6 months, and we look forward to the next 6 months. Of course, I saw the Christmas party on December 5. I'm sure everybody's interested to know when that's going to be. At this point, for the presentation of the new MAP members for induction, I would like to call on the chair of the MAP Membership Committee, who is also the president and CEO of the Metro Pacific Water. Please welcome Secretary Babes Singson.
Thank you so much, Agnes. To our special guest, Secretary Tony YULO LOYZAGA, to President Dick, to our fellow MAP members, our friends from media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am pleased to announce that this afternoon we are inducting 8 new members that will increase MAP's total membership from 1,144 to 1,152. Unfortunately, some of those who were not able to arrive this morning, so they will go for the next GMM. So let me start with the first, Mr. Don. Please, as I call you, come up the stage. First is Mr. Don Timothy Buhain, who is the CEO of Rex Group. Sponsors, Mr. Mike Makatangay and Ms. Jane Lobos. Second, Mr. Carl Russell Kurt Menil, Vice President of Pro MS Forwarding Services. Sponsor, Mr. Ador Abruhena and yours truly. We also have Attorney Harrison Harry Paltongan, President of SunTrust Properties Incorporated. Sponsors, Mr. Mike Makatangay and yours truly. Of course, we have a very prominent person in our roster this morning, Dr. Gwendolyn T. Pang, who is the Secretary General of the Philippine National Red Cross. Welcome. Sponsor, Attorney Dick Dubaladad and yours truly. Number 7 on our list is Mr. Christopher Edward Toff, M. Rada, none other than Mr. TikTok himself, Head of Public Policy and Government Relations for the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei of ByteDance. Sponsor, Mr. Mike Makatangay and Ms. Jane Lobos. Next, we have Attorney Vincent Homer Reville, the new administrator of the Local Waterworks Utilities Administration, which is a key agency for water security for all Filipinos. Sponsors, Attorney Dick Dubaladad and yours truly. Next, we have Mr. Robert Jason Torres, Head of Corporate Affairs Group of Mega Wide Construction. Sponsor, none other than Edgar Saavedra and Mr. Louis Ferrer. The last but not the least, we have Ms. Cecil Dominguez Yuico, CEO of Evident Integrated Marketing and PR, sponsored by Ms. Karen Batumbakal and Ms. Marian Hontiveros. At this point, allow me to call our MAP President, Attorney Dick Dubaladad, to lead the induction of the new members. In the meantime, may I ask all to rise to add solemnity to the occasion. Thank you.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly pledge that I will perform well and faithfully to the best of my ability my duties as a regular member in order to contribute to the achievement of the objectives of the Management Association of the Philippines. So help me God. Congratulations and welcome to MAP.
Congratulations again and welcome to MAP to our new members. In line with the MAP policy and in the interest of time, we will dispense with the lengthy introduction of our speaker. Her profile instead will be flashed on the screen. I would like to remind our speaker that you are given up to 30 minutes for your presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all settle down. Thank you. Everybody's excited about the new members. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to ask you to please welcome our speaker, the Secretary of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DNR, Secretary Antonia YULO LOYZAGA.
Thank you very much. Please, have a seat. Good afternoon. Should I do that? Okay. Maybe just move back a little bit. Just move back a little bit. No, just a little bit. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you to the MAP for the invitation to speak to you today. I was telling our table and some of our friends earlier, I do not have slides, so you will have to bear with my presence for the next 20 minutes or so, and hopefully I will answer many of your questions in terms of the national priorities on the environment. I wish to acknowledge right up front the MAP 2023 Board of Governors, Attorney Dick Dubaladad, Mr. Alex Cabrera, Mr. Donald Lim, Ms. Corazon Purisima, Ms. Karen Batumbacal, Mr. Shel Habito, Mr. Benjamin Punangbayan, Mr. Chito Salazar, Ms. Martha Sasson, and all the distinguished guests, His Excellency, the Ambassador from Thailand. I've been asked to speak to you today about the national priorities on the environment, natural resources, and climate change. In the course of the next few minutes, I hope to also give you a deep dive on the DNR's mission and direction. Briefly, this will be who we are, where we work, why we work, and how we can work together. Allow me to begin with 3 quotes from the President that have established the way forward for these priorities under this administration. The first is, there is no question that the preservation of the environment is the preservation of life. If we cannot mitigate climate change, all our plans for the economy, all our plans for the future will be for naught. Secondly, those who extract our natural resources must follow the law. And thirdly, the environment and the country's resiliency and adaptation to the new normals of climate change are on the top of the national agenda. We all know while there has been some progress in the areas of climate action and disaster risk reduction, the kind of nexus governance that is needed to achieve inclusive, resilient, and sustainable development is very much a work in progress. Extreme weather events and the COVID-19 pandemic have shown this to be especially true for our communities and the ecosystems that support them, with valuable services such as water, food from fertile soils and abundant seas, erosion and flood control, storm surge protection, and sources of building materials, as well as many inputs for livelihoods, enterprises, and industries having been affected. Our development choices in the past have created exposure and vulnerability that has landed us at the top of the list of the World Risk Index and close to the top of many lists in terms of the risks to the impacts of climate change. We all have our work ahead of us in making the last mile the first mile, and ensuring that no community and the ecosystems that support them are left behind. What has happened locally to us is mirrored well in the World Economic Forum's Global Risk Report of 2023, where 6 of the top 10 perceptions of future risk are environmental in nature. First, the failure to mitigate climate change. Secondly, the failure of climate change adaptation. Third, natural disasters, hazards, and extreme weather events. Fourth, biodiversity loss and ecosystem collapse. Fifth, natural resources crises. And sixth, large-scale environmental damage and incidents. Our environment is where the DNR works. This administration's agenda of pursuing a green and blue economy and establishing livable and sustainable communities guides our department in fulfilling this mandate, managing risk, and building resilience in all natural domains. Our work covers the air we breathe, all life on land and below water, and all our natural resources. In sum, our priorities are to protect, conserve, restore, and regenerate the ecosystems that serve as the life support for all human, social, and economic development. Our place of work covers 30 million hectares of land, over 36,000 kilometers of coastline, the 5th longest in the world and twice as long as the United States, and waters that extend to the edge of our continental shelves. We have 15 million hectares of classified forest lands. Sadly, only 7 million left under forest cover. Within these lands and waters, we have critical and varied habitats and diverse ecosystems that support our natural resource needs as a developing country. We are at the apex of the Coral Triangle, and the Philippines is among the world's mega-diverse countries. The Convention on Biological Diversity ranks our country as 5th in the number of plant species, maintaining 5% of the world's flora, and it has recognized our extremely high species endemism. We are also among the richest marine ecoregions in the world. You are aware that the DNR and 5 provinces are presently seeking legislation to protect the Verde Island Passage, also known as the center of marine shorefish biodiversity in the world. What some may not know as well is that biologists internationally have actually identified Luzon as having the greatest concentration of unique species of mammals of any place in the world. However, we are also one of the world's biodiversity hotspots, with at least 700 threatened species, and we are also a center for illegal wildlife trade. Our ecological sites face constant threats from illegal logging, illegal mining and quarrying, conversion of forests, theft and piracy of our genetic resources, and the challenges from climate impacts such as coral bleaching and sea level rise. At present, we have 248 legislated protected areas in the Philippines, encompassing just 15.5% of our total land area and 1.42% of our total sea area. We are part of a global initiative called the High Ambition Coalition today that seeks to protect at least 30% of global lands and seas by 2030. We have a long and complex journey ahead, and we hope that today's conversation with all of you will lead to strategic partnerships in this area. Among the first steps I have taken under this administration is to include the declaration of the proximity to all protected areas in each application for an ECC, so that the avoidance and mitigation can be part of the early evaluation process for all projects. Among the biggest threats to the environment is our unsustainable consumption and production. Practices that lead to the production of polluting waste. This is where our partnerships would not only be strategic, but critical to our survival. Confronting the complex roots of the pollution on land, seas, and air requires a whole-of-society effort that will come at a cost, but will have far-reaching benefits. The Extended Producer's Responsibility Law is an opportunity for the country to curb the destruction of our ecosystems by setting targets for large enterprises, which many of you represent, to recover and divert 20% of the plastic waste that they produce in 2022 by the end of 2023, gradually increasing this by 40% by 2024, and setting 10% targets until 80% can be decreased, and that be reached by 2028 and onwards. Of the 4,000 enterprises that have been identified, only 600 have registered with the DNR. And I call upon this audience today to come forward and do your share. In partnerships with the UNDP and the World Bank, we are preparing a national roadmap for the management of plastics and the phasing out of single-use plastic. Some of you have already stepped forward and committed to work with us, and we will be launching, actually, a national campaign to accelerate action here this month. I wish to cite here that investments are needed, not just in diversion and collection, however, but also in research for the substitution of single-use plastic. Unless there is a product that has the same functionality and affordability as single-use plastic, the demand for its use, particularly among communities that can afford no other ways to consume and store, will not wane. We are looking for partnerships and innovations to combat water and air pollution, and are setting targets for expanding our capabilities for observation, monitoring, and analytics. Continuous emissions monitoring and real-time water and air quality sampling are essential to sustainable development. We are seeking to apply remote sensing, ground-based sensor networks, and advanced analytics to support data and evidence-driven decisions for preventive rather than reactive interventions. These enhanced capabilities and the application of artificial intelligence will allow us to optimize our mineral resources as well through responsible mining. With the indulgence of those in the audience, such as our good friends from Diwata, led by Ambassador Delia Albert, allow me to reiterate with emphasis what I expressed to the mining sector last year. In applying science and evidence-informed environmental management on activities that alter or disrupt the natural environment, The DNR supports responsible mining within the context of our goals for inclusive, resilient, and sustainable development. Minerals are a part of our daily lives, and they are used in one form or another across all industries. They are needed to build an industrialized and digital society. Moreover, strategic minerals such as nickel and copper are required for the world to transition to clean energy and mitigate climate change for a low-carbon future. The question before us is whether our laws and policies respond to the current and emerging science, technology, and practice, and whether compliance ensures and supports responsible mining. This goes beyond regulatory compliance and is a commitment to deliver not only individual corporate profits, but for the mining sector to be agents of ecological integrity and social development. What is required is a mindset of inclusive progress in all aspects of our triple bottom line. The mining sector can then be a critical force for social and economic development in our country. In this light, the DNR adopts the mitigation hierarchy, which is a framework that starts with avoidance of all possible environmental impacts. If this cannot be done, then the next option would be to minimize these impacts. The third option would be to rehabilitate all disturbed areas. And finally, for truly unavoidable disruption, we must do all of these and provide for and invest in offsets by enhancing high-value ecosystems and areas to compensate for what nature has truly lost. We are therefore in favor of rejoining the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, or the EITI, while actively engaging in discussions to address issues of fairness and context. This will be especially relevant as we continue to explore new resources, seek ways to address the social and environmental challenges posed by illegal, large, and small-scale mining, and support an enabling environment for investments in processing for value addition. On water, this administration has instituted a first in our country's history. The Water Resources Management Office was established by executive order under the DNR in order for the over 20 agencies with water-related functions to coordinate and collaborate under one roof. While the WRMO is designed to be a transition to the possible organization of a Department of Water, this is a critical step in integrated water resources management. The system's approach to water resource management runs from ridge to reef and considers the complex challenges posed by climate change and other hazards. Water security is essential to food, energy, and human security. Resilience in this sector requires the assurance of supply, the robustness, responsiveness, and redundancy of delivery infrastructure, and the careful management of demand through conservation, treatment, and reuse. The WRMO is working with the DPWH and the DILG at both national and local levels to rationalize and optimize the utilization of budgeted projects and to implement shifts away from deep wells in the local governments to surface water sources. Where possible and feasible, we are also converging water supply and distribution with flood control and the potential for the development of hydropower. Over the past 4 months since its conceptualization and establishment, the WRMO has been tasked to assist in the technical implementation of over 1,300 local projects. We have taken part in the negotiations for immediate and longer-term solutions to Metro Manila's water supply and participated in the El Niño Task Force. This is in addition to the monitoring of the country's 18 river basins, working with the National Water Resources Board, the Local Water Utilities Administration of our new member, Vince, and the National Irrigation Authority. Water sustains all human and technological progress. As such, it is the most critical sector in terms of the impacts of climate change. Our scientists at PAGASA and those working with the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, such as Dr. Faye Cruz and Dr. Rosa Perez, agree that the Philippines will continue to warm and will continue to experience heat extremes. There is no foreseen increase in the number of the 19 to 20 tropical cyclones that enter the Philippine area of responsibility. However, it is important to understand two facts. Only about 9 of these tropical cyclones historically have made landfall. And while there may be no change in number, it is true that their intensity has actually increased. In the future, fewer but more intense typhoons are projected for this region. Sea level rise has also increased in our country and is projected to be higher than the global average. Changes in temperature and rainfall extremes and means will likely disproportionately amplify the vulnerability of those already marginalized because of poverty, their status, gender, age, and disability. The combination of SLR, or sea level rise, with subsidence and the human alterations of our coastal environments will pose dangers to coastal communities living in low elevation coastal zones and the ecosystems that support all life there. Climate action for resilience is therefore everyone's business. Mitigation requires emissions avoidance and reduction. Adaptation requires a science-informed and comprehensive risk assessment. Reporting and transparency, especially along the guidelines of the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosures and the emerging guidelines from the Task Force of Nature-Related Financial Disclosures, are needed for all corporations to help us reach our goals. The green transition is aligned with the priority outcomes and strategies outlined in the Philippine Development Plan for 2023 to 2028. Specifically, under Chapter 15 of this plan, we need to enhance the adaptive capacity and resilience of communities and ecosystems to natural hazards and climate change, where one of the outcomes is the transition to a low-carbon economy. The Philippines aims to do this with the DNR's participation by the following: implementing the nationally determined contributions, policies, and measures, bolstering private sector investment in green development, ensuring a just transition of workers affected by structural changes towards a greener, more sustainable, and low-carbon economy, expanding market opportunities for low-carbon technologies, ensuring energy security through transitioning to cost-effective, reliable, and sustainable mix of energy resources, and putting in place enabling policies on environmental safeguards and for offshore wind and floating solar energy projects. In addition to the PDP, the work is supported by several enabling policies and plans already in place, including the Sustainable Finance Framework and Roadmap, the National Climate Risk Management Framework, the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Plan, and other innovative risk financing measures. Investment in climate action and DRR are also now integrated and tagged in convergence planning and budgeting. The DNR has prioritized the following in order to accelerate the green transition and contribute to socioeconomic development of our country. We are pursuing a risk-based approach for sustaining and accelerating economic, social, and environmental gains. We are supporting the accounting of the Philippines' natural resources through the Natural Capital Accounting System led by NEDA. We have established and continue to strengthen the National Natural Resource Geospatial Database as a platform for environmental governance and the integrated planning and implementation of climate-proof strategies. We are building resilient communities to risk-sensitive and balanced land management and the development of resources along the natural, rural, and urban transect. We are combating the climate emergency through practical climate change adaptation measures informed by the best science and technology and traditional and local knowledge. And finally, we are supporting the advancement of innovations and best practices for co-benefits for mitigation and adaptation investments through nature-based and gray-green infrastructure solutions. Before wrapping up, I know this has been a long speech. Allow me to address two climate-related issues that may be high on your agenda: the transition towards renewable energy and the country's carbon policy. On the transition to renewable energy, the DNR and the Department of Energy have been working together to accelerate this shift by updating the old guidelines for investments in offshore wind and floating solar projects. This is an ongoing process, and although interim guidelines will shortly be released, we expect to continue the refinement towards the end of the year. We are also discussing the implications of the transition to renewable energy systems on the demands from the mining sector. Specifically, the requirements for copper, nickel, and cobalt that are essential for infrastructure and storage that cover everything from the manufacture of turbines, undersea and overland delivery and storage systems, and the manufacture of batteries and of electrical vehicles themselves. These requirements have both national and geostrategic implications and require the next level of strategic foresight, net assessment, and direction setting. On carbon policy, Executive Order number 174 has institutionalized the Philippine Greenhouse Gas Inventory, Management, and Reporting System, with the Climate Change Commission as the lead. The CCC is updating and finalizing the latest greenhouse gas inventory, which covers the following sectors: energy, transport, agriculture, forestry, land use, industrial processes, and product use and waste. As you may know, we have committed to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and avoid our greenhouse gas emissions by 75%, of which 2.71 is unconditional. For the period of 2020 to 2030, for the sectors of agriculture, waste, industry, and transport and energy, it is important to note that the inventory does not yet include possible carbon sequestration from mangroves and seagrasses, which actually have a greater potential for sequestration than land-based forests. The DNR has also issued some important policies. The Philippine National Forest Monitoring System, which mandates the use of remote sensing, ground-based data collection, and advanced analytical tools to gather accurate and up-to-date information on the extent, condition, and changes in forest cover, and the Philippine Carbon Accounting, Verification, and Certification System, which establishes a system for quantifying carbon stocks and greenhouse gas emissions from the forestry sector, including deforestation, forest degradation, and afforestation activities. We are now working with development and private sector partners to enhance both substance and implementation of these policies and in bolstering the technical capacity of the CCC. In the meantime, the DNR has engaged with the private sector, some of the companies that you may know: Prime Infrastructure, Marubeni DMCI, Shell Corporation, in co-benefits projects that include afforestation and reforestation for carbon sequestration on land through the voluntary carbon market. Under our President's direction, we've also joined the Positive Conservation Partnership led by France to explore the establishing of a biodiversity credits market, which is especially relevant to our country. In closing, allow me to summarize our priorities along with our asks of MAP. Our government needs partners who go beyond ESG and the fence lines of their operations to ensure ecosystem integrity and the resilience of the communities that surround their operations. Partners who go beyond compliance to achieve strategic shared values and who are committed to climate and disaster resilience within their core business value cycles, to going beyond your specific contributions to GDP. The priorities I've outlined and the volatility and complexity of our future require us to work together to achieve coherence in all we do, convergence in what we can do together, and synergy. The why behind all we do is what we deliver to our country. When we work together as a whole of government and as a whole of society, we can then build an inclusive, resilient, and sustainable Philippines. And that would be the real national dividend. Thank you and mabuhay.
Thank you very much, Secretary LOYZAGA. Indeed, protection of the environment is protection of life itself. We will now be proceeding to the Q&A. I would like to call on the members of the Q&A panel to come up on the stage, please. Of course, very proudly, Dr. Reggie Casas, who will serve as the Q&A panel chair. Reggie, or Dr. Reggie, is the chair for the MAP Environment Committee and the president of Advanced Renewable Energy. Attorney Alex Cabrera, MAP Vice President and the Governor in charge of the MAP Cluster on ESG and Chairman Emeritus and ESG Leader of PwC Philippines. Mr. Rex Drilon II, Chair of the MAP Shared Prosperity Committee and Vice Chair of the Center of Excellence in Governance. There are microphones on the floor for your use in asking your questions. However, please be brief. Please refrain from making a speech. Please wait to be acknowledged by our Q&A panel chair before you ask your question. May I now ask Attorney Alex Cabrera, MAP Vice President and Governor of the MAP Cluster on ESG, to ask his questions for the DNR. Oh, sorry about that. Oh, we are now ready for the Q&A. Please take it away, Reggie. I'm trying to take your job away from you. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Madam Agnes. Good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to the new inducted members. Because of time constraints, we will, what we did is we organized a brainstorming last week so that members of the ESG submitted their questions and we submitted it ahead to the DNR just to ensure that we have quality responses. No? I have now the privilege of asking the first question. So we'll rush this process because of time constraint. No? We will also have an open forum after this. So, Madam Secretary, before I start, you really truly presented such an enlightening presentation. Can we have another round of applause to the Secretary? Yes. And I'm not teasing you, Madam Secretary, but because of your presentation, I have more questions to ask rather than less. So I'll go straight to the point later. Okay. My first question, I have three questions, but all three are premised on one reality, Madam Secretary, that the Philippines has more water than land. So when we look at the territory of the Philippines, from the north to the south, we have 2,200,000 kilometers of water. And when we looked at the 7,107 islands, it's only 300,000 kilometers. So we have really more water. So I'm addressing it to the benefit of the fishing industry. Is it possible that DNR should focus a little bit more on aquaculture? rather than agriculture. And in the agricultural land, of course, are shrinking because of the phenomenon growth of industrial, commercial, and residential. We should focus more on the fishing industry providing support through aquaculture. May I have your response, Madam Secretary?
That's Mike.
Thank you very much, Reggie. I guess the first response to that question would be the Department of Agriculture is really the one responsible and whose mandate it is to actually direct investment towards either aquaculture or agriculture. BIFAR would be the particular unit of the Department of Agriculture that would be able to speak to that question. However, your point is well taken, that in fact we have not optimized the use of our natural resources in water, and therefore there is room for us to actually develop a sustainable fisheries industry and aquaculture industry. And the DNR is actually supportive of the work of the DA at this point in terms of helping them maximize the use of the fish ponds that have actually been areas turned over to them when the Department of Agriculture and the DNR were separated initially. Yes, so there were over 100,000 hectares of fish pond areas that were turned over to the DA as part of that separation, and we're actually supporting them in optimizing these.
That's good to hear, because less countries will occupy our water territory. May I now ask our dear Governor, Alex, to submit your question?
Thank you, Chair Reggie, and thank you once again, Secretary Tony, for your time this afternoon. You know, the more that I learn about your role and the responsibility of a DNR secretary, the scarier it gets. You know, the protector of air, land, and water. And yet, key to this role is human resources and maybe governance. And I just like to hear from you, Secretary. What's your observation insofar as this key personnel and insofar as governance is concerned in order to help you succeed with your role?
Okay.
Thank you very much, Alex. I want to share with you that the department is made up of over 17,000 employees. However, because of our government rules and other constraints related to projects, we have another 17,000 that are on contract of service. So we are a department of 34,000 individuals. And at this point, if you think about the areas which we have to cover, perhaps 34,000 is not such a large number. The issue is the level of technical competence, the organizational culture in terms of pursuing excellence, and I would say our access to the kind of financial and material resources that we need to do our job. The DNR's budget is about the number 12 in terms of amounts, but for the different department budgets. To give you an idea, we have a budget of about 24 billion. The budget for the Department of Public Works and Highways is in the area of over 800 billion. So for us whose work is to conserve and protect, our budget is a very small half percentage, or I think Rex was computing earlier, of the budget that we have to actually change and alter our landscape and seascape. So we do need some recalibration, and we do need to attract the kind of talent and technology that will allow us to do our job. Government service is not exactly the most attractive employment opportunity, as some of you may perceive it to be. However, para sa bayan, we hope to attract the kind of talent and commitment to excellence in service that the department sorely needs. Thank you.
Thank you. So technology is really key to that success, no? Okay, next, can we ask Sir Rex Drilon to please ask your question?
Thank you, Reggie. Madam Secretary, This is both a question and a reaction to your speech. First, your opening line of preservation of the environment is the preservation of life is both a profound and disturbing message. Profound because it really goes to the core that environment is life itself. But disturbing because we see around us many desecrators of the environment that are going scot-free and not paying for their abuse of the environment. We have huge and urgent problems in environment such as water inadequacy and insecurity. We have grossly inadequate clean and renewable energy, terrible waste management, and not only in plastics, very poor air quality, constant flooding, no thanks to irresponsible mining companies, nor illegal and exploitative loggers, among others. In the MAP-led Covenant for Shared Prosperity that was signed by about 26 other business organizations, the largest in the country, we invited members and other business leaders to protect and preserve the environment for the benefit of not only the current, but actually future generations by employing environment-friendly technology in all aspects of their business operations. How can DNR and MAP collaborate to advance this advocacy among companies, sound the alarm bells, and address those urgent environmental problems I enumerated earlier, Madam
The
Secretary?
question is, how can MAP support DNR? That's the bottom line.
Thank you very much for that loaded question, Rex. I think at this point, what we need to understand is the work that is required of environmental protection and regeneration. So that whole spectrum needs to be whole of society. That's the first one. The work is far too complex, and it is transdisciplinary. We need to acknowledge that formal knowledge, formal science, needs to be complemented by traditional and local knowledge as well. And here at MAP, I think there are a number of opportunities that we can actually explore together. First would be the conservation of our forests and the possibility for projects that will help us with reforestation and afforestation. We have 15 million, as I mentioned, hectares of classified forest lands, only 7 million of which have forest cover at this point. There are opportunities to actually provide the ecosystem services through afforestation, reforestation, but also opportunities for new value creation through the carbon market. So these are new streams of income that different corporations can possibly explore. As I mentioned earlier, we are already working with a number of them. Shell, for example, Prime Infra, and Marubeni, DMCI as a collaboration. Many more have come forward. Second will be the area of solid waste management. We do need your help in registering for the EPR. This is extremely important for us in order for us to bring down the amount of solid waste that is released into our environments. And the corporations that you all lead and the organizations that you all lead could be the messengers as well as the implementers for the EPR law. I think third would be we need to think about adopting local governments. And I actually saw one of the items there earlier. The DNR has a project called Project Transform. And Project Transform involves the adoption of local governments by multiple stakeholders that have invested in their own business and other sustainability practices in these different local governments. We are working, for example, with the government of Bataan, wherein companies like EDC, organizations like PBSP, the National Resilience Council, the Zwillig Family Foundation, are looking at resilience of the province of Bataan through environmental sustainability and the provision of sustainable livelihoods that are biodiversity friendly. These types of projects that bring together multiple stakeholders, experts in practice, corporate citizens, are actually what we need to do in order to actually develop the resilience of our communities. And Project Transform is just one vehicle, and we're happy to actually present the concept to you. We're not only working in Bataan, we're working in Ormoc City. We're about to work in Baguio City as well. And these are really carryovers from the work that the National Resilience under Ambassador Roberto Romulo and Hans C. have actually done together. And so we'd like to invite all of you to consider that.
Okay, thank you, Madam Secretary. So, in response, deforestation, solid waste, adopting LGUs can be adapted by all of us through our corporate social responsibility programs. So now, due to time constraints, let me just go to my next question. And my next question is once again rest on the premise that we have more water than land. And because of that, I'm looking at Saudi Arabia, wherein 50% of their water consumption is coming from the open sea through a technology called desalination. So may I take your opinion on that? Can we adopt more desalination in many of our islands to provide water, principally maybe for industrial use and commercial, and just preserve water from the dam for human consumption so there will be less depletion of water? May I have your opinion on that?
The balance of uses really is a local governance matter in terms of their own development trajectory as they have put together in their annual investment plans. However, on the concept of desalination and the adoption of desalination as a technology, the DNR is already supporting the adoption of desalination, especially for the remote islands that do not have the access to potable water that they need. Many of these islands actually barge water from the mainland to the islands on a daily basis. And it's for these islands that we actually have been eyeing desalination, and to other water scarce, highly urbanized areas. You will know that Cebu, for example, is already desalinating.
Okay, good, thank you. Due to time constraints, we will just have one last question for each, and then we'll have the open forum. So, Mr. Governor, can you ask your last question?
Thank you, Chair Reggie. I'm actually wanting to waive my question for an audience
forum.
question at this point.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead because
Also, we'll do the open forum now?
Chair, no,
Or
Rex,
unless,
Rex has,
Sir Rex, do you have another
probably can
question
close it
before
with
the
another
open
question.
forum?
Okay, thank you, Alex, for waiving your right to question. I can get over the 24 billion budget of DENR because those number of projects that you have started are ongoing and will start will certainly cost more than that. And it is sad that the budget that you have is less than 1/2 of 1% of the total budget of the Philippine government. So my question is, a lot of us dream that by 2034, at the latest, Filipinos will enjoy protection, safety, and resiliency from climate change by switching to a sustainability mindset and holding institutions accountable for the worsening condition of the environment. What are your specific programs to address or to instill environmental justice?
You're the expert on the loaded questions, I see, Rex. So at the moment, the thrust of the DNR includes the involvement of communities and people's organizations, as well as consultations with different communities in the redesign, review, and perhaps new legislation behind the current policies and practices that we now have. We have, at this point, and I've only been 10 months on the job, Rex, so let me tell you that, as I said earlier, We have been dealing with a number of legacy issues, some of which involve environmental justice. Let me hit one on the head, reclamation. So there is a moratorium on reclamation at this moment, and seabed quarrying is not a priority and will not be a priority for some time. We are in the process, for example, of listening to all the stakeholders, particularly in Manila Bay, and to see whether we may need to actually take action together with the proponents whose projects have been approved and who have been given notices to proceed, to actually modify and perhaps, I would say, reformat their programs for reclamation.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Reggie, I see three
Yes.
questions from the floor.
Yes,
Maybe the gentleman first behind
Yes.
the mic, and then the
We're
lovely
now-
woman
yes.
that stood up will be the second one.
Correct.
And then the third one will be the gentleman.
Correct.
that
So
tried
we're
to
now
also-
to the open forum. Please feel free to go to the mic. Submit your questions, please.
Thank you very much, Secretary. We were together. I was with MMDA before. We were working on disaster preparedness and climate resiliency. I'm Coratec Jimenez. I am now with the Philippine Bamboo Society of Advocates. And our vision is actually to plant 1 billion bamboos nationwide by 2030. We're trying to push that. My question is, because you've never mentioned, if bamboo will still have a priority in your National Greening Comprehensive Program. And before you, the former Secretary, Simatu, was telling us that there's a 20% budget for bamboo plantation.
Thank you, Coratec, and I do remember you from MMDA days. Coratec and I were working on a PPP that actually was installing automated weather stations all over Metro Manila for actually real-time data collection and hopefully flood avoidance. No? Bamboo will have a place in the National Greening Program. It may not have the priority it once had. However, we strongly support bamboo in terms of the greening program. We are looking now at the species and the correctness of the species for the particular habitats which we need to actually reforest.
Okay.
And this is where some of the movement will be taking place in the NGP.
All right.
We hope to engage with you though.
Yes, please.
Very much. And please, if we can meet after this, I'd be happy to see whether we can set a date with the group. And I've been approached by 2 others as well on the bamboo. There we go.
Okay.
Rachel and so.
And thank you very much also for choosing Burgos, Siargao, the island of Siargao, as one of your projects for Project Transform.
Yes,
so
thank you.
we'd like to meet up with you for the launching of that.
Absolutely, we will be there.
All right.
Are you Siargao based now, Cora?
Yes, yes.
Excellent. We'll see you there.
Yeah, I'm
Thank-
working through the Peace and Equity Foundation.
Oh, that's good to
Thank
know.
you very much.
Okay. May we ask? Yes. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Carl Menil. I'm also from Siargao. San Benito, Siargao to be exact. I am the current economic manager, also the son of the mayor. I actually know Miss Coratec. We're from AIM as well. My concerns are just 2. First is our mangroves. So basically, regarding your discussion earlier, I'd like to know, is there a program for development or maintenance of mangroves? Because as you know, like in Boracay, Siargao is slowly turning into an industry wherein foreigners are going in and, you know, like you said, reclaiming the land and building hotels and stuff like that. Is there a law that prevents it? Also, our other resource in, not just in San Benito, but in the whole Siargao is seaweed. Do we have any development programs for that? Can we do some exportation? Can you help us with the market and etc.?
Okay.
And special trainings for the seaweed farmers. That would be all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question.
Thank you. Yeah, Siargao is a part of our project Transform. We will be covering sustainable livelihoods, biodiversity conservation, which will include mangroves. And I think what really we would like to see in Siargao is the kind of nexus governance that is needed, from the realization that biodiversity, land, water are in fact inextricably linked. Siargao was very badly hit by the tropical cyclone.
Odette, yes.
Exactly. And unregulated development was partially to blame. So local governance and the reliance on scientific information and data is really the key towards sustainability and resilience. On the seaweed issue, the market issue would be a DTI issue, but we'd be very happy to help you with linking you with the DTI. But certainly, seaweeds are a growth industry for us and should be supported. And we'll be happy to support you there.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. One last question. Yeah, one last question. Yes.
Poch Macaranas, AIM, and MAP Education Committee Chair. Secretary, the world is faced with financing climate change adaptation and mitigation. There is a policy that rich countries that pollute more and can pay more have to help the less developed countries. In the Philippines, the same situation holds true. In Luzon, Metro Manila is the most polluting, and therefore it must help in the burden of making sure not only Luzon but the entire Philippines must be assisted. In this vein, are you suggesting that indeed the ability to pay and the benefits principles be adopted by the Philippines as well, so that Metro Manila firms will be able to help the rest of the country in solving its own climate change mitigation and adaptation?
Thank you for that question, Doc Poch. What I'm suggesting is that corporations should embed investments in climate change mitigation, adaptation, and disaster risk reduction for resilience in their core business value cycles, and not merely as CSR options. And that will actually contribute not just your own actual contribution to GDP, but also to the social and environmental security of communities and ecosystems that support the businesses. Thank you.
Very nice. That's very nice. So that was the last question. So in summary, we're very fortunate that our mother nature, our country, is now being taken care of by our mother shepherd, none other than Secretary. So give her another round of applause, please.
You're the mother of the environment.
Our mother of environment. In summary, her message is simply, she will protect, preserve, and restore our country. Thank you so much. Madam Agnes?
Thank you, Chair Reggie. Thank you, Secretary Alex and Rex. Before we adjourn, exciting, let me announce the 6 winners of the Spa Wellness GCs courtesy of Security Bank. I will join you. Attorney Dig, join us for the photo, please.
May we also ask the other governors to come join us? The other governors? Huh? Di na?
Let me go back again. Let me announce the 6 winners of the Spa Wellness GCs, courtesy of Security Bank. If you are the lucky winner, please claim your GC at the Security Bank table outside. First off, Joey Paz from Simplex Industrial Corporation. Laurent Lamasuta from Ayala Properties Management. Corazon Jimenez, PSBAI. Ernesto Carolina, VFP. Alexander Ablasa from Climargy Incorporated. And Emmanuel Kwasay from Capital Industries. Let me repeat that again. That's Joey Paz, Laurent Lamasuta, Corazon Jimenez, Ernesto Carolina, Alexander Ablasa, and Emmanuel Kwasay. Once again, I would like to thank Secretary LOYZAGA for sharing her time and expertise with us today. Thank you everyone for joining us today. This general membership meeting is adjourned. See you on July 12th for the next GMM.